Today, she also
There we
received
go.
what's known as a phishing
This is
email,
what I was
a
attempting to do.
malicious email sent by scammers. Let's look at what would have happened if she'd done what the criminals had wanted her to do. Had she clicked on the link to the help desk, she would have been taken to a fake website and been asked to update her personal information. The website was set up by criminals to gather personal details, which they would then use to hack into Emma's accounts and commit fraud. If she clicked on the other link or opened the attachment, malicious software, known as malware, would have tried to install itself on Emma's computer. It would have then collected details such as her usernames and passwords and sent them back to the criminals. As Emma's on a network, the malware could have got into the system and stolen, corrupted, or deleted other stored data. Fortunately, Emma recognized this email for what it was and deleted it immediately. Many aren't so lucky, so this is spotting phishing emails by what you need to know. It's estimated that 156 million phishing emails are sent every day, and of these, 16 million get through the protection software. 8 million are opened, 800,000 links are clicked, and 80,000 people fall for scams and give away their personal details. Knowing how to recognize phishing emails
Some of those statistics are staggering.
can lessen your chances of getting caught, so let's have a look at some of the signs. Perhaps the first thing to look at is the email address of the sender. If you can't see the address, try moving your cursor over the name to reveal it. Criminals use two tricks here. One is to put a real company name before the @ sign to make it look credible, and the other is to use a web address which is similar to the genuine one. For example, let's say there's a company called Floyd Skis and they have a website at floydskis.com, which has email addresses like this one. Here's how scammers could create web and email addresses so that they look similar to the genuine one, by using an I instead of an L, adding or removing a letter, using a 0 instead of an O, or changing a letter like an S to a Z. These slight changes are only a sample of the tricks that criminals use, so it's worth taking a moment to inspect the underlying links and addresses carefully to make sure they're the same as the genuine web address. Be wary of emails with generic greetings such as "Dear Valued Customer," and ones with poor spelling, punctuation, or grammar. However, you can't always rely on these obvious signs, as sometimes scammers go to great lengths to make their phishing emails look as authentic as possible. They'll use the company's real logo and sometimes even the names of people who work there. Another trick they use is to create a sense of urgency, for example, by saying that there's a time limit, or using a threat like "You'll be fined if you don't act now." They might suggest,
Which is just terrible because this is exactly how they end up getting vulnerable people. Like we always joke about grandma in class, but she is more apt to, or he, grandpa, is more apt to respond to something like this because they feel like they are potentially in danger of some underlying force, wreaking havoc on their computer or something.
that you'll miss out on something, raise your curiosity, or tap straight into your fears in order to push you into making an instant response. If you feel you're being pressured in any way, or that something just doesn't seem right, be especially careful. If there's a link, just as with email addresses, roll your cursor over it to see the underlying address. In other words, where the link would take you to if you clicked it. On some touch devices, you can use a long press to see this, but there's an obvious danger. Press too hard and you'll follow the link. Lastly, look to see whose name is at the end of the message. If it's from a department or team, do they actually exist? If it's from a person, is their name in the email address, and is the email address real? So far, we've looked at generic emails which are sent out to large groups of people, knowing that it only takes a few to click to make it worthwhile for the scammers. However, criminals sometimes target individuals. These are called spear phishing attacks and are on the increase as criminals know that many more people are fooled by them. Spear phishing emails use personal information, often obtained from social media pages, to make the emails look more credible. For example, criminals might use your name, or tailor the email to reflect things you like, your hobbies, interests, where you live, or what's happening locally, or even make it appear to have come from the organization you work for.
And that kind of gives you an idea, obviously, of what we've discussed already. It is that just that same, they want to catch the vulnerable, they want to catch the people that just, they're not maybe as tech savvy. And maybe even if they are, it gets the best of us. And these are just some statistics I wanted to throw out there. That the average financial cost of spear phishing attacks in the last 12 months among 88 respondents who had suffered the spear phishing attack was $1.6 million. The vast majority were U.S. companies, and for these businesses, the average cost was actually $1.8 million. And you can see there's a little bit more statistical stuff there. And then even more, this is when it kind of started taking on a different form, in which they call whaling, because they're going after, the biggest players in the potential organization, because they're potentially, or they more than likely have the most access to these things. So without trying as hard, I guess you could say, they go right to the top of the food chain, the whale, and go right for them to get the information that they're after. And the more we've discussed these things, you can see that this is a huge problem. It's happening constantly. It happens, from that little video, you could see that there's up to 80,000 people worldwide affected a day by these situations. And it just, one thing that the common core that these things always seem to come back to is that several of the things we discussed in class, which was, a layered set of defenses. You need a proper malware scanner or an anti-spam filter, which should be built into most email, which I'll show you a little demonstration in a second here. And there's education of your staff, or grandma, who we keep bringing up, or I do, is she or he or anybody, they need to know that there are simple ways to prevent these things. And one of those, and this is one of the things that I found online, was 3 ways to stop 95 to 99% of these attacks. And one of those was inbound email sandboxing. Basically, kind of what you saw a little bit in the video, is when you hover over it, before you even click it, it can give you the information whether or not this is a link that's trusted. And, sometimes antivirus software is becoming sophisticated enough to try to keep up, and will detect that the link in the email is potentially dangerous or a threat. And you can also see that one of the big things is really knowing how to analyze your web traffic, whether it's at home or especially within an organization, because as you can see, it's a constant threat. It's a constant attack. It's happening right now. And so to be able to better understand through, if you retain data through data retention in your organization and use the data analytics at your disposal, you can kind of start to see patterns and trends emerging and know what to look for, what's bad traffic, what's, and you obviously need to filter beyond just the traffic. You need to be filtering all incoming and outgoing emails. And then this is back to that educational part. And it seems to be the biggest thing, is the employee behavior. You have to educate people on what to look out for, what not to do, what to avoid, and all of the things. And then obviously reinforce proper and good behavior in these situations. Another quick demonstration, I thought it was kind of interesting that I sent myself, as you can see, an email here from a different website, or I'm sorry, web address. That's not right either, email address. And when you click on it, I kind of tried to set it up like one of our bad messages. And as you can see, it says right away, because I tried valued customer and all these little things and changed some stuff in the Wells Fargo, that Gmail gives this warning right off the bat. And I thought that was kind of cool, because, it's at least a line of defense that's already starting to be built in. Things are becoming more sophisticated, hopefully in parallel with the attackers. And then in conclusion, there are things out there at your disposal. Make sure you stay educated, stay vigilant. Like we looked at in class, this is just one example, like the fish tank. You can see what's the database they've compiled.